I will show you 4 steps you can take right now to get ahead of 98% of all Sudoku solvers. And with that, it's solving time. So step number 1 is to create an anti-vision. You can understand that a good way to start this puzzle would be to look at these ones and this one and know you can only have one place for a 1 here in block 1 right there. And then you can look for the 2s and notice with these 2s, there's only one place for a 2 in block 3. So your vision would be to see yourself completing the rest of this hard Sudoku. But if you really want to get ahead of 98% of other solvers out there, you need to focus on your anti-vision. Greetings, friend. This puzzle by Julian Locke is perfect to show you the 4 steps to getting ahead in Sudoku and in life. Your anti-vision starts when you become brutally aware of 2 things. Number 1, what you don't want. And number 2, where you'll end up if you keep doing the same things in life. So be honest. You don't want to get stuck on this puzzle. And if you stop before finishing it, you'll be just like the other 98% of the people who avoid the things that make them smarter. So step number 2 is you want to follow a proven system to success. And what I'll show you is that you want to start looking for digit restrictions from 1 to 9. So finish looking at these 1s. You'll notice there's only 2 places for a 1 in block 4. And you want to mark any time in a 3x3 block 2 possibilities. This finds restrictions and also leads to some other strategies that will help you solve this puzzle faster. With these 2s, you'll notice there's only 2 places for a 2 in block 1. And then with these 2 and this 2, only 2 places in block 8. Nothing else you can do with the 1s. Nothing else you can mark or solve with the 2s right now. With the 3s, we got some neat things going on here. With this 3 cutting across the row, and this 3 coming up the column, you'll notice 2 places for a 3 in block 3. But these 3s are in the same row. They are a pointing pair, which means a 3 can't be anywhere else in the row outside this block. If you put a 3 here, no place to put a 3 in block 3. So you can remove the 3 from there, and with this 3, you have another pair of 3s in block 1. Same thing down in block 8 with this 3 and the 3 cutting across. 2 possibilities here, acts as a pointing pair to go with the 3 and the 3 in that row. 2 places for a 3 in block 5. And then in block 4 with these 3s, 2 possibilities for a 3 in block 4. Okay, nothing else with the 3s, go to the 4s. You might see with this 4 coming down the column and this 4 cutting across the row, only 2 possibilities for a 4 in block 7. To go with this 4, you have 3 possibilities here. I don't mark those, and the reason is you're looking for the 1-step restriction, where if you solve one cell, then you can solve the other one immediately for a 4. When there's 3 possibilities, you don't have that much restriction, and so I don't mark it. Move on to the 5s. You'll see with these 2 5s, you have a pointing pair of 5s in block 3. To go with this 5 and the 5 right there, you can actually solve for a 5 now in block 2. And then with those 5s and these 2 5s, whenever you have 4 of a digit appearing into a block, you can solve it. There's only going to be 1 place remaining right there. And then with these 5s, you can mark the 5s in block 7. Okay, nothing else with the 5s. Move on to the 6s. With this 6 and this 6, 2 places for a 6 in block 3. And then with these 2 6s, 2 places in block 5. And then with this 6 coming down and the 6 cutting across, you have a pointing pair of 6s in block 7, which restricts the 6s to right here. And now I'm going to show you a neat little trick here. And this is our step number 3. So step number 3 is focus on the impact of your choices. You notice there's 2 places to put a 6 in block 8. It's in columns 4 and 6. If you remember, you also marked 2 places for a 6 in block 5. And they're also in columns 4 and 6. So this restricts the 4s, right? Because where can a 4 be in this column, in column 5? Well, it can't be in any of these spots because we just marked columns 4 and 6. So 6s have to be in one of these 2 spots if you're going to have a 6 in column 5. So this is called a claiming pair. And so you can mark that claiming pair, and now you know that you cannot have 6s in any of these spots. You put a 6 here, no place to put a 6 in column 5. And I cover claiming pairs and pointing pairs and the other strategies I'm showing you in my free Sudoku solving guide. But look at the impact of what you just did here. Now you have 6s restricted to rows 2 and 3 and blocks 2 and 3. So what does that mean about 6s? Where can they be in row 1? Well, they can't be here. Can't be here because of this 6. You have another claiming pair of 6s. So you can mark those 6s there. Cannot have a 6 here anymore because of the claiming pair. So you're looking at the impact there. And we're going to keep on solving here. And notice the impact too of what it does to row 1. What can this cell be? Can't be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can't be a 6 anymore, right? Because the claiming pair of 6s, an 8 or a 9. This is actually a naked single 7. If you notice that much impact, you notice how many cells are in the row, in the block, in the column. You can solve this cell and save you so much time. You'll save yourself so much time by finding that. And that leaves you with the 3, 4, 6 across row 1. Well, if the 4 and 6 are right there, this has to be your 3. It gives you a 4, 6 naked pair. So you want to mark that. But you're not done. You'll notice you got the 4, 6 there. Well, with this 4 coming up the column, where can it go in block 2? It's got to be in the same places as a 6. And so you see how they're on top of each other? That means you found a hidden pair again, this time of 4, 6. They have to be in these two cells. You block everything out, leaves you with an 8 and a 9. Well, with this 8, that's an 8 right there, and that's going to be a 9 right there. And then look at the impact now in block 1. With these two 9s, your 9 has to go right there, and it displaces the 2 marking. That means you can solve this cell for 2 right away. It leaves you with a 7 here in block 1. And what else can you do? Well, with this 3, you displace the 3 right there, solve this cell for a 3, solve that for a 1. And it leaves you with a 4, 6, and a 7 to finish up column 1. You have a 6 in the row, 7 there, and you got a 4 here. And so you can remove those candidates. And now the 7s are restricted in column 1 to block 7. So that's another claiming pair, since the 7 cannot be there. And what else can we do now with the 7s? Because you remember, we're going digit restrictions 1 to 9. We had stopped on the 7s to make all these solves. So go back to that. Use your system to know that 7s can be there. And with these 7s, 2 places for a 7 in block 5. And nothing else to the 7s. Move on to the 8s, which you might see here. You might think there's nothing with the 8s. However, if you see how this 8 comes down the column, you'll see that the 8s are restricted to rows 4 and 6 in block 6. Well, an 8's got to be somewhere in block 4. It's also restricted rows 4 and 6. So, where can the 8 be in row 5? Can't be here or here because of these 8s. Has to be in one of these two spots, right? Because an 8 can't be anywhere else along the row. So that makes it a claiming pair. And so now 8s can't be here or there because 8s have to be somewhere in row 5. So you want to find that nice claiming pair. These types of deductions that you look at is going to help you get so much further in this puzzle. You're not going to want to quit. You're going to keep going. And everything I've shown you so far, again, my free Sudoku solving guide, will get you 80% of the way there just by the solving guide. And we got one more step that I want to show you. But first, let's look at the 9s. With this 9 and this 9, 2 places for a 9 in block 4. So go back through. This time you want to focus more on pairs, triples, heavy houses. A heavy house is any row, column, or block that has at least 5 cells filled out. You know, column 6 has a 4, 5, 7, 8, 9. You need a 1, 2, 3, or 6. Well, if you happen to notice this 3, you can displace that 3, solve this for a 3. And with the 2 and a 6 there, you can solve that for a 1. And it leaves you with a nice 2, 6 naked pair. And then you might notice with the 1s, you have 1s restricted in block 6. And with these 1s and this one. One's restricted in block 8. And then with the 2s, with this 2 and this 2, 2 places for a 2 in block 7. And with this 2 and that 2, 2 places for a 2 in block 5. And that's about it. So you're going to get stuck if you don't know the last step. That'll get you ahead of everyone else. And before I reveal step number 4, I want to talk to you about keeping your mind sharp. If you want to level up your thinking and get ahead of 98% of everyone, you need more than just puzzles. You need to train your brain across the board, and that's where today's sponsor, Brilliant, comes in. Brilliant helps you get smarter every day with thousands of interactive lessons in math, science, programming, data analysis, and AI. Brilliant helps you become a better Sudoku solver by strengthening your critical thinking through problem solving, not just memorization. As you work through their interactive lessons, you're not just learning concepts, you're training your brain to think logically, spot patterns, and solve problems more effectively. The same mental muscles you build with Brilliant apply directly to tough puzzles. And with quick, mobile-friendly lessons, you can build a daily learning habit right alongside your morning coffee or Sudoku puzzle. I've been working through their logic and everyday math courses again, and honestly, if you want to sharpen your edge and think faster and more clearly than most people, this is where to start. To try everything Brilliant has to offer free for 30 days, visit brilliant.org/smarthobbies or scan the QR code on the screen. You'll also get 20% off your annual premium subscription. Big thanks for Brilliant for supporting this channel and for helping us all stay 2 steps ahead. So step number 4, if you want to move on in this puzzle or in life, is to add to your mental toolkit. So most people, they do not know any advanced Sudoku strategies. You can get ahead by understanding the basics of how single candidate advanced strategies work. The way to do that is to highlight where candidates can be in a puzzle. So you look at the ones, and you can use the coloring feature in SudokuPad to mark where all the ones can be. And what you want to look for are conjugate pairs. So a conjugate pair is when there's only 2 possibilities for a candidate. So one could be there or there, just like a one could be there, or here in the block. Those are the foundation for advanced strategies. Unfortunately, there's not too many ones remaining, so you cannot build any advanced strategies here. But let's move on to the 2s. Let's see what we can do with the 2s. We made quite a few marks with the 2s. 2s there, 2s there. Take advantage of those marks you made in the corners. And now you want to look for those conjugate pairs. What you're going to notice, there's quite a few conjugate pairs, right? In the block, in these columns, across the rows, and you want to compare them. Notice here that you have a conjugate pair in row 9, right? A 2 can be here. If it can't be there, it's got to be right there. You'll notice that these also have conjugate pairs in the columns. This 2, column 2 is a conjugate pair of this 2. So either this is a 2, if it's not, that has to be a 2. The only 2 places a 2 can be in column 2. Same thing here in column 6. There's only 2 places for a 2. What you might notice is this conjugate pair, it shares the row. These 2 are in the same 3-block band, also called a belt, but they're in different rows. And so what does that mean? Well, you know a 2's got to be here or here in the column. Well, so if a 2's right here, first possibility, a 2 can't be anywhere else that sees this 2. So it can't be anywhere else in the block or the row. You could eliminate 2's in all those places. If this is not a 2, the only other possibility for a 2 would be right here in that column, which means this cell now can't be a 2, and it forces a 2 right here in this cell. So what you notice, no matter what possibilities exist, a 2 has to be either here or here in one of these yellow cells. So you can remove a 2 from any cell that sees both. So if it shares row, column, block of both, like this cell right here and this cell right here, you can remove a 2. And this is called Sudoku Skyscraper, and this is awesome logic. So what you want to do is you want to remove those possibilities for a 2. If you put a 2 there, you're going to run out of places to put 2s in this puzzle. Let me remove the 2 from right there. And you'll notice now, with this skyscraper, and it kind of looks like a skyscraper because this is a taller building, this is a shorter one. There's only one place for a 2 now in block 5. So this has to be your 2. So go back to those first 3 steps. Look at impact, follow your system, and think about your anti-vision. You don't want to get stuck, so keep moving forward. Once you put a 2 right there, what does that do to this puzzle? Puts a 6 there, forces a 2 there. This can't be a 2 anymore. This has to be your 2, and that's got to be a 2. So we can remove all the 2s now, and all the colors in the cell, in this puzzle. And now, where do you look, right? Well, you look at the solves that you made. You look right here, you got an 8 or 9. We had displaced a 9, so you can solve this for a 9 right away and solve this now for an 8. And in column 2, you notice you displaced a 5. There's only one place for a 5 in column 2, and it's right there in block 7. So solve that for a 5. And then what can you look for? All right, keep on looking for where you can make more of these solves. You might notice you displaced a 3 right there, so solve that for a 3. And then with these 3s and this 3, solve this cell for a 3. Displacing this 3, solve that for a 3. Displace a 5, displace a 6, displace that 7. This has to be a 4. It's the only thing remaining in block 3. And you want to look and disambiguate. Attack these marks you made and clean up this puzzle. Okay, so it's looking good there. Now where do you want to look? You might notice in column 5, you just have 2 places remaining, an 8 and a 9. An 8 only in one spot, you know that has to be the 8, and that's going to be your 9. You end up with, it looks like a 1, 4, 6 here. The 6 can only, excuse me, a 4, 6, 7 there. This has got to be your 6. That's going to be your 7. That's got to be your 4. Cut across here, only one cell remaining. It's called a full house. It means you can solve this with certainty for a 9. Take these 2 9s and this 9. You can solve this cell now for a 9. Take those 2 9s. You can solve this for a 9 right there. And you want to move forward with your solving. You might see here is you just have 2 cells remaining in row 6. Look for those heavy houses, the ones that have 1, 2, 3 cells remaining. That's where you're going to get your next solves. Because of this 7, that has to be your 7. That's got to be your 8. And then with these 2 8s, solve for an 8 right there. Solve this for an 8, displace that 1. Okay, we're not done. With these 2 1s, solve this for a 1, displacing the 1 here, and solve that for a 1. Finish up this block. This has got to be a 4. And then you can finish this column. Don't see a 5, so solve that for a 5. What do you have left here? Looks like you need a 3. Well, you got a 3. You need a 4 and a 7. With this 7, there's your 7. There's going to be your 4. Allows you to solve this now for your 4, displacing that 7, displacing that 6. You already solved the 4, so this has to be an 8. So come up here. Now this is going to be your 4, and your last digit is a 6. Now challenge yourself to rise above your anti-vision to solve this next puzzle. Thank you so much for watching.